believe in the gun. And our players don't use it most days. They use it every day.
In my 20 years as head coach, I've used the gun every single year. Well, my dream as a coach that everybody would grow up with the gun, because getting all those reps would make my job a lot easier.
Good morning, everyone. Tom McDonald, Troy Hilton, NABC Championship Webinar Series. Our guest today, our distinguished guest, Tim Jankovich, is the head coach at SMU. I went through, Coach, one of the things that's really interesting to me, and a lot of the coaches that are on here are high school coaches. And we're anticipating about 75 to 80% of them are high school coaches. But your background, you're a GA at Texas Pan American, an assistant at Kansas State and at Texas and at Colorado State and Baylor, Oklahoma State, and then you became the head coach at North Texas, then at Hutchinson Community College, and then Vanderbilt as an assistant, and then Illinois, and then Kansas, and then became the head coach at Illinois State, and at SMU or assistant, the associate head coach with Larry Brown, and then took over. Your career record's 232 and 159, one NCAA appearance, 4 NITs. But really what I thought was amazing is just your run, your path. So after I get done with this, the thing that really I've said on almost every coach we've had, being a member of the NABC for 33 years shows your commitment to this profession, to the organization, and really your passion and caring and concern for these fellow coaches. So with that, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So my first question is this, Coach, is that journey from, let me look here, I got it right here, 1983 at Texas Pan American to now. Could you just talk about the journey that it was and all those kind of people that helped? That'd be greatly appreciated. I think people would enjoy hearing that. And then we got a few more questions for you after that.
Yeah, it's when I hear you say all that, it's hard for me to believe that all that time has passed. I remember, I feel like I was always the young coach in the room, and then all of a sudden I look up and that's not the case at all anymore. But I did get my start. I started out as an institutional stockbroker in Beverly Hills and quickly decided that I didn't want to read the Wall Street Journal. I wanted to read the sports page. And Lon Kruger, who was my assistant coach when I played at Kansas State, was then the head coach at Pan American, and I started out as a grad assistant to him. So I'm so grateful that he got me started in this. I spent a year there and then went back to my alma mater and worked for my head coach, Jack Hartman, who was another incredible Hall of Fame nominee. He then retired, and I went to work with Bob Weltlich at University of Texas, and Coach Weltlich had a great career and been with Coach Knight for a number of years. So I got a chance to learn kind of what Coach Knight's system was about, which was fascinating to me. Then I got into the full-time assistant job. I went to Colorado State and worked for a guy that I think probably is the greatest coach that not enough people talk about in the history of basketball. And anybody that ever played against his teams, but Boyd Grant was amazing, and I spent 4 years with him at Colorado State. Amazing coach. Doesn't get 1/100th of the credit he deserves. Was with him 4 years. He retired, so that was a little rough. And then I went to Baylor for a year with Coach Iba, which was fantastic. Gene Iba did a great job there. Great coach. From the Henry Iba family, and Coach Iba's father was also a coach at University of Tulsa. So another background, another great background. And then I went to Oklahoma State with Coach Sutton, Eddie Sutton, who I'm so proud and happy, long overdue. He just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Should have happened years and years ago, but I got to work with him. Head coaching jobs, North Texas, Hutchinson Junior College, and then Kevin Stallings, who was a great friend, hired me at Vanderbilt, another great experience. And then I was there several years. And then Bill Self hired me at Illinois, and I was there very short time, very short time, one season. And then we went to Kansas. And that was fantastic, as you might guess. For me, it was fantastic because I think I'll be the only human being to ever play at Kansas State and coach at Kansas. I didn't know if I was going to live through that one, but it worked out great. Fantastic experience, as you can imagine. And then, head coaching position, Illinois State, loved it there. So appreciative of that opportunity. And then when Coach Brown came here and they kind of packaged this deal, and been here for 8 years. And so I had a chance to also work for another Hall of Fame. Well, Coach Self's in the Hall of Fame. Coach Kruger should be, Coach Hartman should be, Coach Sutton is, Coach Brown is. So basically, I've been the luckiest guy in the world to learn from really, literally some of the greats of all time in our game.
You nailed it. My question, Coach, is this. As you look at all those coaches from Jack Hartman all the way through Larry Brown, is there common traits, common characteristics between all those really successful coaches? Or are they just so diverse? But is there any common theme for those coaches that make them so successful?
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is they kind of all come from the same school of thought, even though maybe their mentors or the people they played for were not all the same person, but it turns out that they all kind of subscribe to the same philosophy. Now, their personalities were totally different, but to a person, every single one of them valued defense over offense, valued fundamentals over trying to trick somebody, the toughness side of things, the solid side of things. Everything is solid, not giving up easy baskets, taking good shots. It was always the foundation. So we were never, I worked for a coach that kind of threw caution to the wind, I guess, and did a lot of trapping and playing, extremely fast. Always tried to play fast, but not helter-skelter fast. So really, their philosophies were all so in line. I always felt like I was, even though a different personality, I was always working in the same school of thought.
Right now, we're in this pandemic, COVID-19. How are you keeping in touch with your staff? Are you able to be in your office, or are you, and then players and recruits, how's that all going? What are you utilizing?
Well, to start out, we're not in the office, although I am today, thanks to you. Okay, so that was good. I'm hoping that we open these things up soon, but I did get to see the office today, so I'm very happy about that. But just, this is such an amazing, surreal time for all of us. It's been so interesting just to talk to so many of my friends and their perspective. But with our team and our staff, we just talk. We just talk and text, and I try not to call the players too much or text them too much. Give them a little freedom this time of year, but all our staff just reaches out to our guys, and our staff reaches out to each other. But we are hopeful that we're going to be back together in some form soon. We're missing being together, and we're missing talking basketball. We're missing our players. We're missing a lot of things, just as everybody else is.
There's a lot of college coaches that are listening in, like Division II, Division III, NAI, junior college. What are you using during this time for recruiting? Like we had Mike Bray was on. I think, Troy, there's some other coaches that said, actually, I think Rob Senderoff from Akron, I think, unless I'm wrong, they were talking about how it's actually helped them in recruiting. But how's recruiting going for you, and what are you utilizing?
Well, as of today, we don't have any scholarships available as of today. So, those things can always change, but we didn't have any seniors this past year. And of course, we're just coming off several years of probation and limited numbers. We've been playing with 7 players for quite a while. Last year, we got to a full roster, and ironically had no seniors. So now all of a sudden we're in a completely different position. So things are a little different here than some other places, but it's certainly a challenge to recruit in this day and age right now. And again, I hope that, just really hope and pray that things return to normal soon.
One thing I didn't mention, you were 19-8 and 9-6 in the conference, which was, for what you've gone through the last couple of years on players, that's a pretty good, you were really playing pretty well.
Yeah, we were. I'm very excited about this team. We almost, the way we were almost great, but we weren't great. We could have been great, but we had a very good team, and it would have been interesting to see what we did in the postseason. But I'm so excited because I think we did learn a lot. Our group, we were a lot of new guys together trying to form a new team, and again had some great wins, but also lost some games that you feel like you shouldn't have lost had you been a little bit more understanding of what it takes to win. But moving forward, I'm really excited, and a little bit in the back of my mind, as we all are, we're just so hopeful that we play this season. I think that's that's not out of the question. I hope it's out of the question, but it doesn't feel like it's out of the question. So certainly hope that we have a season this year. I know our guys are very excited about it.
Troy, I'll turn it over to you, and then I'll let Coach go into transition offense, man-to-man.
Thanks again, Tim, for being on today. This is great. You're going to donate a little bit of your time.
Thank
I
you.
had a couple things. As a person that grew up in Kansas, first of all, I didn't know you were from Manhattan, or if I did, I forgot. So maybe I'm taking some assumptions here, but I think a lot of the people that are tuning in to watch this are younger. And I was going to ask if you could just tell a little bit about Jack Hartman, because like I said, I grew up in Kansas, but he stopped coaching before I got to the NBC, so I never really had a chance to interact with him other than just watching you guys and your big games on TV as a child.
Well, yeah, I think so. For younger people, they might want to, get on the internet and look up some of his accomplishments. He was a fantastic coach. I happened to play, because of age, in the old school. Most coaches back in the early 80s, still, it was old school. And old school meant, the whip was cracked. They were cracking the whip. Coach Hartman had more than one whip. He was always cracking the whip. Incredible disciplinarian. It was not, the old school way was certainly not, we're here to be friends. We're not here to talk too much. You're here to perform, and that mentality really bonded our team. But he was a fantastic coach. He was so demanding and so meticulous, and never took his foot off of what he believed in, and never took a day off. Rarely were we smiling. It was full speed ahead. But if you look at what he accomplished, and I really feel like I'm so thankful to him, because when you come out of high school and you learn from a great college Hall of Fame type coach, you learn so much. And so I really felt like he gave me the fundamentals and the background and the confidence to go into this profession and actually feel like I would know what I was doing, and not that I was lost.
Well, and with that, I'll let you turn on and get to the subject that people tuned in to hear.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
I guess it's something, transition is my subject. I do want to have a little disclaimer. In the era of high tech, this is going to be very low tech. I'm very low tech. Okay. I'm not very good. My staff makes fun of me. So we're going to be old school, low tech in drawings and things like that. So I hope that's okay. If you guys don't feel like you can see well, please let me know. But every year, it's ironic that I'm talking about transition, because every year, by far, every summer, the thing that I struggle with the most, and I know it sounds silly, is how are we going to run down the floor? What are we going to tell our guy? How do we run down the floor? What are we going to do when we get the ball? What do we do? And so I think it's important to kind of divide up, in my opinion, and we call them, there's two ways you kind of can run down the floor. One is off a rebound, of course, and the other one we call jailbreaks. Most of the time, those are off of steals. So those are two different things, and so I think it's important to have your players understand that they are two different things, of course, and work on the jailbreak situation, which becomes 2-on-1, 3-on-2, 3-on-3, whatever. It's a broken floor, and it's obviously a broken floor. In that case, we certainly don't want to have the same rules, if you would, for if we get a rebound. So on a jailbreak, we have numbers. We're going to attack. Everybody knows how to do a 2-on-1 and a 3-on-2, and you know, maybe a 4-on-3 or whatever, but more, you know, we get more rebound breaks than we get steals. I wish we got more steals than we got rebounds. In some ways, we'd score a lot more points. But so then, how are we going to run down the floor when we get a rebound? And I think there's some real questions to be asked, and I'm asking them every year. And I wish I had the holy grail, but I don't. But are we going to fill the lanes? Are we going to make guys accountable to run certain lanes, or do we want to just say run down and fill spots? Just run down and fill these spots. Doesn't matter who you are, fill them. Do we want a rim runner? Do we want to make sure that we have someone sprinting to the rim to try to get that possible layup, and also draw in a guard possibly that feels like he has to hold a little bit more? And I think those are important questions. And again, I struggle for months every year in how much do I want to tell them what to do versus let them just play freely. I do think with that, whatever the decision, it has to be, and I always say this, that the top 3 things in offense are spacing and more spacing. So whatever is decided on has to have great spacing. And I just think that's the most important thing. But so those questions, everybody's different. So I'll kind of talk about, you know, maybe some ideas or what people are doing, you know, in our game, the college game, or maybe some in the NBA with those things in mind. But I think then the next question you have to ask once you figure out, well, are we a rim run, no rim run, filling exact spots, filling lanes? What are we doing? The next thing obviously you have to ask is, who are we? Are we 4 out? Are we 5 out? Sometimes are we 3 out, 2 in? What are we? Who are we? And so I'm just going to kind of review things real fast, just as much as anything to pay respect for the guy that I feel like, at least in my lifetime, sort of, you know, was the pioneer in running the floor and creating offense, and that was Coach Smith. So that was, you know, a little more, again, old school, was more 3 out, 2 in. There was always the 2 bigger guys, you know, the power forward and the 5-man. And so back in the day, it was a lot of that. It can still be that. Some people still play that way, and it's very effective. But just to draw, just as a reminder, nothing new here, but the simple part of Coach Smith's his break, as we all know, we come down and try to get the first post. Can everyone see this okay?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Move it back just a little bit, Coach.
Right here?
That's better, right there.
Pretty good?
Hey,
Okay.
I have a question for you while you're doing this. If coaches have questions, do you want me to interrupt you, or do you want to wait till the end?
Sure, I would love to. I would love for just to do nothing but answer questions, honestly. But
okay, I'll ask them as they go.
But I'm going to go through this real quick.
Go ahead.
People have seen it. Come down and, you know, fill the 5-man, tries to seal here, look for a quick one, look for a high-low, swing the ball, still look for the post, get a back screen here, and then finish it with the bigs down here and throw it to the guard and finish with a cross screen right here. That's Coach Smith, and most people have seen it, and it's been, but I think it's fantastic. I do. I think it was just great. And then he added you know, within that, you know, just to make it flow, when the ball did go here, so now the ball's here with the guard coming up here. So then there was a kickback. If you couldn't swing it or didn't want to, you could throw it back and get a back screen here and look for that, hit here, cross screen down here. So that was a basic, great secondary break, if you will. I think it's still fantastic to this day, particularly if you have post guys that you want to throw the ball to all night, and particularly if you're in the philosophy that you definitely want a rim runner to put pressure on defense, and that you do want to play kind of a high-low situation. I think it's great. It's been around forever, but it has to be talked about, in my opinion. another one that's really, a 3 out, 2 in. I worked with Coach Self at Illinois and at Kansas, and his 2 game, if you will, he's put on 100 tapes and everybody's watched it. But still, it's worth showing out of respect, because I think it's as good of 3 out, 2 in break as there is. You got a rim run, so you can always get that pitch ahead. The guards are running, but it does shape off center. Try to get the high-low right here with a seal. If not, swing the ball. Try to get another seal right here with a guy on the high side and stagger away and see if you can play, inside out. And then obviously you can also have the 2 side over here. I'll do that like this. You can come down with 2 people over here. Swing it, looking high-low, and get a single down here on this side. So those are 2 that a lot of people have done, seen, been incredibly successful with, I think they're fantastic. And I don't think you could talk about transition without talking about Coach Smith and his secondary. And I could go into a lot of the wrinkles and all those things, but I won't do that. But those are the ones, to me, if you want to be 3 out, 2 in, and you want to be very purposeful, and you want to really threaten the goal as you run, and also threaten the goal with your big guys sealing and trying to get easy baskets, trying to get post touches with 1 or 2 feet in the paint. I think those 2 are great, but I think they're personnel driven. I think it's not good if your team is more in the, I guess, lack of a better word, a little bit more modern day. The modern game is more 4 out. The modern game is trying to become more 5 out. And, because of that, then some of those couple things to me don't fit. And so I think you have to kind of have that power team to feel like you want to do that. So where's it gone? And for me, a long time ago, for good or for bad, I started seeing the game, as a spread game, and it's gotten more and more. And so it's kind of my comfort zone to think in terms of the stretch 4 or 4 guards around 5, that kind of thing. And I think that's more prevalent. More and more people are doing that. I think it's an influence from the international game for sure. So 4 out, what can you do in 4 out? The simplest thing, and this is probably what's going on as much as anything in college, is as simple as this. Is just, I mean, if you want to be really, really, really simple, just fill the guards to the corner, or fill any, depending whether you want to designate or you just want to say fill spots. But as simple as this, to have, a drag and 4 around 1, a lot of people are faking the drag and getting a quick roll on that. And that's been very difficult, kind of a slip, which if you try to go under on transition, sometimes they'll slip into you and it can be very difficult. So a lot of people know this. This is a lot that's going on right now, I think. But just to take this maybe a half step further, if that's just too simple or kind of nothing, it feels like it's, not hard enough to guard. I would argue that so many times the simplest things are the hardest things to guard. The more complex sometimes, the more the other team can take you out of it. But here's something to think about. So this would be, something that I wanted to show here, which would be like to take it a step further, to say, okay, let's say you want to designate somebody as the trailer. And so you send your guards, in other words, the 4-man, more or less. And that means somebody's bringing the ball up and you're getting your spacing. You got guards to the corner. You've got a trailer opposite wherever the ball decides, he goes opposite. So now if you think about it, well, where's the 5? Is he the first guy or is he the trailer? Because he, sometimes he's going to get the rebound. He's going to be the trailer. Sometimes he's going to run his tail off and he's going to beat the other, his buddy, the 4-man, whatever. So here's a very simple package, and I can make it a little bit more complex, but the simplest form is let's say that the 5-man is first. He was running. So the rule, pretty good rule here, ball's here, coming down fast, everybody's running, is to touch the foul line. If you're the first guy, is to touch the nail as fast as you can. And if your man is behind you, just go to the rim. Just, it's a rim run. You're trying to throw it over the top. Obviously, more often than not, somebody's here. Somebody's guarding the bucket. So touch the nail and come back and do what we call a button hook, which I like better than a drag, because the angle is much better to get ahead of the ball and then come back with a screen with the butt right to the basket. So we call this a button hook. And while this is happening, just get an interchange here and fill the wide spots here. And now the guard can go off either way on a pick and roll in transition. So again, the 5-man has incentive to go run for a layup as it's coming down to try to hit him. But if he gets there and he can tell that he doesn't have a layup, he runs back, finds the point guard or whoever, if it's designated, and sets a butt screen to allow the guard to come off. You've got the movement on the weak side. You got an interchange, and a teaching point would be not to come fill a slot, but for him to fill the wing to give more room here in the middle. So real simple and real effective. And in my mind, it combines the threat of the rim run. I like the rim run because I think you put more pressure on the defense. If someone is sprinting here, maybe a guard has to take it. Maybe he beats his man. I just like the rim run. So this keeps the rim run involved in 40 minutes of a game. You might get a few of these, and I really like that. So what happens if now he's the trailer. The 5-man's the trailer. So same thing, the guards, they don't know or care the difference. There's no difference. But now they're coming up. There's a 5-man coming down late. There's a trailer. And it doesn't matter whether he interchanges right away or not. He's just, the trailer has to be opposite the ball right here. The 5-man's coming in late. And so this is, I think in the NBA, a lot of people are calling it delay, which doesn't mean you're holding the ball. They only have 24 seconds, but whatever you want to call it, you've got 5 out here. When the trailer is the 5-man, he just goes to the top of the key and hit him. And then that keys whoever is in these spots to go pin down and allows him the decision. He can go either way with a dribble handoff. And of course, within this, you've got a lot of reads. He can, obviously, one is that this guy can just use the screen and take the handoff into a pick and roll and widen. He can come up if he feels like he's overplayed. He can go out. He can come over, and you fill on a single side, a naked side ball screen. Let me show that a little bit better. So there's a guy, the point guard would be here. 5-man has the ball. These guys are interchanging, but he can also backdoor. He can take the handoff and go into a naked side little pick and roll right here. So real simple package, honestly, but I think pretty effective. I think what I like about it is, again, it gives you a rim run opportunity. It also gives a little variety, but it's so simple that I don't think it's structuring your players down to where, they have to overthink it or feeling like they're running a pattern. Something that I've experienced over time, a long time, been doing this a long time, is if you pattern it, the more you pattern it, at least for me, and I think probably some guys would argue they maybe coach it better, but from my experience, the more we pattern it, or the more we drag ball screen, the less our guys run. Just run for easy baskets. And the more we do it, well, they don't run as fast, but we are more purposeful. So there's certainly a trade-off. And I think team to team, do you want to have more purpose? Do you want to have more ball movement, or do you want to give more freedom? And I think that's a question that you got to ask. Again, the more you pattern it down and make them think, the more purposeful you are. But at the same time, I think a lot of times they think they're going to run down and run a pattern as opposed to really run for baskets. So I think that's another, again, when I go back to the beginning of the year, well, do we want to be more free or do we want to be more purposeful? But this, what I just showed you, I like. I'll show you one more thing if that also I think
We got one question if you want to jump on it before you change. It says,
Oh,
Coach,
good.
would you suggest to designate a specific player, point guard, for example, to bring the ball up, or whoever gets the rebound?
Yeah, I think that's personnel driven. And I think in a perfect world, whoever gets the rebound brings it. I think it's faster not to have an outlet. Although I've also found that not everybody can do that. Not everybody's very good at that. So I think that's totally personnel driven. But I think the fastest way to the other end is no outlet pass. Just dribble it and kick it ahead to the first guy you can see and shape up and fill spots. So that's another, we've actually changed within a given year. We usually start out, hey, anybody bring it. And then we're like, some guys aren't quite as good. Ball gets kicked around. Let's just get the ball to our point guard. And I will say, I do think you run fast. This is another, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth now. I think I said you're faster if you just bring it, whoever gets it. But sometimes I would say, well, that's not even totally true, because sometimes they're not sure, am I gonna, do I run this time or not? They're not as quick out of the gate sometimes, is what I'm saying. But all things equal, I like whoever gets it, let's bring it, everybody sprint, fill these spots. If your guys can do that, if everyone can do that. And if not, it's very difficult. I think this really slows you down to say, well, you can, but you got an outlet. That's when I think you really get slow. I think it's either all or nothing, everybody, or we get it to the point guard. But I did want to show this real fast because it's another chance to rim run if that's important. Let's say again, the 4-man is first, which means the 5-man is going to be the trailer. And let's say we're bringing it down this way. Another way to tell the 4, if you didn't just want to space him, you can make the 4 rim run as well. And if he doesn't get it, just get out opposite of where he sees the ball. And now it gets you into that exact same spacing. And that allows your 4-man to be a rim runner all night. In other words, if you want to take advantage of his speed, tell him to go touch the charge circle, get out, opposite. Now you center the ball, and now you're into the 5 out with the screening and whatever else can happen that I just showed you. So I like that. What my experience was, if you just come down and drag all the time, your guys won't run for easy baskets, or our guys didn't in the past. I will say it that way. They just kind of know, hey, he's going to get an early drag and we're going to play out of that. I just think it's so important to try to steal those really easy baskets by running the floor hard, and I think that slows you down. Is there another question? Did you say there's a couple?
Hey, Troy, I got one. Coach, can you go through some of your entries and counters that you may run into, like if they deny the ball to the wing, or they deny the ball to the high post, or any kind of moving the ball from one side to the other of the court?
Yes. So I've got a whole bunch. That's kind of where we're headed.
Okay, go.
No, but I'm more today just giving a lot of ideas. I'm not showing like this is exactly what we do, because we do something different all the time. Really what I'm showing is ideas and how to put them together. But a lot of the things that I'm going to show here would be counters to whatever it is you're going to run. But if you think about what let's just take what we just did. Okay, what we just did with the 4 out, you really don't need a counter because there's nothing to take away. Maybe you could argue, well, they're going to take the trailer away. You know, if the 5-man was last. Okay, so if that's the case, there's a couple things you could do, and they're so simple, and you could kind of pick. But you're coming down, you're spotted up, however, and the 5-man's denied. One real simple thing, the simplest, is just go screen away. I can't catch, just go screen away. Get this guard a touch, interchange, just as a rule. Hopefully that's a rule anyway. For us it is. Get movement and spacing, and then come right back into a ball screen right there, and you're into an offense. So it all of a sudden kind of becomes a half court, action or a flow in action. But if the 5-man feels he's denied, he can just screen away, get the ball to the guard, come right back into a middle ball screen, roll up everybody behind, and that's good stuff. Another simple one is if the 5 is coming in and he feels that he's, pressured or whatever, he can just start yelling, drag, 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 if you want to do it this way. I wouldn't do both, by the way. I would just have one if you felt you needed it. Honestly, I can't remember the last time on the run that a 5-man got denied in college. We're playing so many packed defenses, but still. See, he can just yell drag if he feels like he's covered, and you can just, go into the early drag, and you're playing the offense, which of course is nothing very revolutionary, but it's very simple. So does that answer that?
I can get my mute off. Yeah, that did. You want to move on to the next thing?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are just some ideas, and all of them, every single one of them over the years, I've run, whatever, and I like a lot of them. I like them all. I guess I like them all, and I certainly do not mean, hey, put all these in, because then I don't know, we've never had a team that could handle all this. But most of these would be if your philosophy is you want to run into some actions. Maybe you have a simple one that you run on misses like we just did. That's pretty darn simple. Fill the spots. If the 5's last, if he's first, that's pretty darn simple. Don't have to call anything. Don't have to say anything. It just happens on its own. It flows on its own, and really try to emphasize guys running for layups. I will say one other thing. Learned this way back in the day, and never have put it in. And I think it's just I always feel like I should, but then I sometimes feel like I'm just going to wear guys out for no reason. But a long time ago, when Coach Sloan was with the Jazz, and I'm not saying he's the only one that ever did this, but he's the one that I always watched do it, is they always made their wings not only flatten, but cross, run wide and then run to the basket, I should say. He'd have them, run to the basket. In our case, go ahead and cross. And I just want to put that out as food for thought. I just always get really soft on our guys, but if you really want to get baskets, then I would say have your guards run the lanes wide, run to the basket, cross underneath, and get flat every single time. That's what they have to do. We don't do that, unfortunately. We should, but the Jazz back in the Stockton Malone days, that's how they played, and it was obviously very, very effective. So in terms of just getting guys to run, that's one of the best that I've seen. But then, okay, so let's say you want to, however you run down without a call. On a miss, I don't really want to call something because I think it'll slow you down. Unless it's just slowed down, then you got to do something. The break got slowed or whatever. There was a fumble or just, whatever happened. But then maybe you want to, on the break, on a make, you want to run or jog quickly or whatever, right into some actions that are simple. They're right out of the same, basic set, if you want to. I don't know if I want to call it a set, but they're all out of the same, flow. Okay, so these are some ideas, and please ask questions if I'm not making them clear. But these are just ones that, again, we've used over the years. I've learned over the years, and I really like. This one is about as simple as it gets. I'll just put guard and one and a big and a big and a guard. So coming out, we'll just come down in this. So let's say it's fast offense on a make. We'll just come down. We got a big and a big and a guard and a guard, and we'll play from here. For now, we'll say he's the 5. Okay, he's coming down, and so because of that, the 4-man, as we said, if he's going to rim run, he didn't get it, he gets out opposite and come down and see if he's got the whole side to turn right here. The point guard can turn the, oh, sorry, good gosh. I didn't have it on there, did I? Let me start over. I forgot. And you guys didn't say a word. You just let me, holy cow. Okay, sorry. So let's say, it doesn't matter who, but let's say it's the 4 right here, and the 1's coming down, and you're running your lanes, and 5's coming down as the trail. He gets out, of course, that's what we said. And 2 now comes up and sets a screen. Can everybody see this okay? So 1 now has this whole side cleared to try to turn the corner, throw a drift or a fan. But if he doesn't and they square him up, 5 is coming for a below the foul line pick and roll. 2 pops right here, lane line extended. So now you're going to be like this with a pick and roll, say with the 5-man right there. Okay, do it again real fast. He runs through it. 1 is coming down here. Let's call him the 2. Let's call him the 3. He runs in and sets his screen, try to get the ball screen below the foul line, opening up the drive or a pick and roll right here. And that's also very good against downing. It's very good against, it's very good against really any way they play the ball screen, because of course you've made the hedge guy a little bit late and you've opened up the baseline drive, making it difficult to change their feet. How are you going to play it? Are you going to get up on the side and then you can drive baseline? So I really like that action. This is a package, and it kind of goes back to the question of counters, but again, this is out of more of a set run into certain spots and flow from it. But this is a little package. This is something Coach Brown really did for a long time, really liked. I really like it. It's kind of a package of 3 different things. So let's go, let's say 5 rim. These are the guards. We'll make it 2 and 3 to be simple. So 1 comes down and spin dribbles or crossover dribbles at 4 who dives. There might be that back door right here. 5 is shaped up. So 4 back, 1 is coming over. 3 comes, I like him to go to the slot, actually better. Pop up a little bit, looking for that, hit here. And then so once 4 goes under, 4 clears out here. 5 is moving up. 3 is here, 2 is here, 1 hits, goes down, and now you're right into a 4 around 1. There's your 1. There's your 3 with the ball. 2, 4. Come right into a middle ball screen. So the ball's changed sides, got some movement right into this pick and roll. Obviously, if you're 5-man, can pop, then it's, you can play it either way as a pop or a roll. That makes you even harder to guard. But not all of us have that luxury. But that's a good action. Again, dribbling at the big, he dives, he keeps going. The point guard hits, he goes through. You've got good movement, great spacing. You've changed sides of the floor. Okay, now let's say one of the counters for that. I think we have 5 up. What do we have? 4 up here. Doesn't matter. These should be interchangeable, and this is going to be personnel driven, who you want to put where and all that. But come down, spin dribble, dribble it over here. He's coming up like it looks like he's going to ball screen like he does, and he takes it across and throws it behind, and it's a great chance to post your 4. When he hits, he goes out here and shapes up. Now you got your 5 here, and it's a great chance to a quick post up. It's a counter to what you're doing before. The first time it looked like we're coming here into a ball screen. This time we're coming here, acting like we're throwing there, but really we're throwing it behind and posting this guy. So that's a package of 2. And then to turn it into a package of 3, obviously it can go more, but so 1 comes down. Spin dribbles. 4 in this case, on this one, more of a shallow cut, more shallow. He spin dribbles. 3 acts like he's coming up to his slot. 5 does what he's always doing, which is following that dribbler. And it's a back door on this side. Maybe I should have shown you that one because it counters the very first action that I showed you. But anyway, you backdoor shallow, come over here, dribble right at him who's coming up, and you've got a naked side backdoor. So if you look at that little package, that package is all predicated on this, on nothing more than spin dribbling here. So it can either be a ball screen in the slot, it can be a kick back to the 4, or it can be a back door. So that's a nice little package. Again, something that Coach Brown, I think, did in the NBA for a good long time. And it's really good. It's really effective. Any questions on that?
We've got a few questions here if you want to power through a few of them. First one is, what do you do versus switching teams?
Oh, that's what I hope I can answer this without being an hour long on. I'll try to make it really short. I've coached, as you mentioned, a long time. And when I first got in this, there were so many, if you were an X and O guy, there were so many fascinating actions and plays, and just your imagination could run wild. And some of the great coaches had so much great stuff. But the game has just continued to evolve to where there's more and more switching, more and more switching. And because of that, again, not whether I'm right or wrong, but what has happened with me is I want less and less screening, and I certainly want less and less screening, by like guys. Most people nowadays are switching to 4 on ball screens or anything. These days, the 5 is kind of the pivotal point, at least in college, that do we switch to 5 and live with all that, or do we not? Most everyone is switching 4. Because of that, I've tried to stay away from most of that, honestly, and if you look at so far what we've done, almost everything is the 5-man ends up being the screener. We do have some things, but I'd have to wait till after I'm done coaching. I don't want to give our league. Guys in our league, we definitely have some stuff that we do if you switch. I mean, we have some things that we're going to do and that we work on to try to punish you. And I would like to share them, but it's hard enough to win as it is, but to tell your league, this is what we're going to do if you do this. But I will say this, that let me back up again. I think it's so important. I was just talking to some coaches the other day. In this day and age, with all the switching, one of the things that I give the most thought to is to make sure that we have a system for the coming year that is not too complicated for our guys to get overloaded, but has enough to it that no matter how you decide to play, we can play. Doesn't mean we're going to play great, but you can't suffocate us. You can't, all you got to do is switch this and then they're dead, And so because of that, I think the game is becoming more either, the screen with the 5-man with a spread floor, or some penetration game. That way you can at least play. The more set things you do with a whole bunch of screening, I think the more you run the risk that somebody can take you out of it. So I hope that answers that question. Is there another one on that?
Do you do anything specific against the pack line?
No, and that's kind of what we're playing against most of the time, whether people actually put it down or not. The one thing I would say, again, kind of tails with what I just said. I think you got to have a game that penetrates the ball. I think you got to have, whether it's a mode or the way you play or some set plays that force penetration. I think you have to have that. Well, if you're going to have that, you have to have great spacing. And, we can go back to, the dribble drive offense with triple spacing and all of that. So for us, we always have a mode where we have an opportunity to triple space a lot. And it's not a play, but it's a mode, again, that we can go to. And I think, I think the pack is great, but it's every defense is great with the single space, not as good with the double spacing, and far less good with triple spacing. So that's one thing we do. And then, in theory, if you have guys that can shoot really well off of fade screens, that's great. A lot of guys, it's hard to make the shot. The 3-point line's pretty far out there now, and not a lot of guys hit a great percentage coming off a flare screen or a fade screen. The other thing that I do think puts pressure on, this is from experience, but just this alone, however you want to get to it, but I do think a flat top, a penetration, puts a lot of pressure on the pack defense. I feel like it does. I always have felt that. But of course, more than that, if let's say he was lifted into a slot and he's out here and you have this triple gap, I think most of us have been kind of following that. But that kind of spacing, to me, is what you have to play against great pack defenses. Other than Virginia, I don't know how anyone ever scores against Virginia ever in their whole life. So I don't know about that, but just good defense, that would be my answer.
Okay, a couple more specific questions. Coach Cole writes in and says, many teams I see now using dribble handoffs in transition, then flowing into the drag ball screens. For example, one hands to two, then trailer comes to the screen, or one hands to two, then your rim runner comes to screen. Thoughts on dribble handoffs and weave actions in transition?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is NBA driven. The NBA is doing so much of that. And I think that college has grabbed a hold of it. I think, from an offensive I always look at, okay, how would we guard it? Everything we do, I always try to ask myself, all right, if we were playing against that, how would we guard it? And if the answer is a little too easy, then I don't really like it. It's got to be a little bit difficult, a little bit of, some kind of decision to make. But I think, I think dribble handoffs and again, it depends on who you're playing and all that, but I'll just say this, you know, and the people we play, for the most part, not a lot of people are going to do a great job on a dribble handoff, stopping behind and grabbing that ball and shooting it at a high percentage. So I think it does lend itself to going under, loosening up and going under handoffs. And especially if you know that a team is going to do that, then if you can just deny a little bit, this is a scouting report thing. Let's say the transition I gave you where the 5-man's the trailer. Well, you don't have to deny him all the way, but make him catch it at 22 feet rather than 19 feet or 23 feet. And then that handoff is going to happen farther out on the floor. And the farther out it happens, the easier it is to slide under things. But some people do get confused with it. I'm not as enamored with handoffs unless you play like, you know, the old Princeton and you're great at the back doors and you got a 5-man that can dribble at and, you know, throw it behind the guy's butt or hand off, and you work on it all the time. But just to go into the handoffs, you know, I don't know. I think most people are going to slide under them and then force you to shoot it. And if you're not great at shooting it, so, but you know, I did have it in our package, in that little package I showed you. But in my mind, you know, it's you know, not the end all. It's not what we're trying to get every single time.
Apologize. I don't know exactly when this question came in, which one you were talking about. It says, is that a called set, or are you telling your team this is how we are attacking in transition for this particular game, half, quarter, etc.?
No, that's what I was trying to explain. I don't want on a miss to be calling things or thinking very much. I want a flow game, and there's so many that you could do. You know, that's why I showed you like the 3-out 2-in ones of the Coach Smith or Coach Self. Those aren't calls. If you want to play that way, it's just your offense. You know, it's just what we do without a call. But then I was saying, then I said, well, okay, but now we're in a more of a 4-out or a 5-out era. And that's why I was showing you, well, you can button hook him, or you can have him as a trailer or whatever. No calls. And on a miss, I just don't like that. But anything I've shown so far, the little brush screen into the wing ball screen, or all the backdoor action by the trailer, those are all, to me, transition off a made basket. Or if let's say the rebound break got stalled, which it does a lot. It just gets stalled, you know, it doesn't come at you fast, and then the coach has a chance to just signal something. So basically I'm saying these are actions that can be done on the run, but I don't want them to be done when you're actually running, when you got a rebound, you're kicking out and you're attacking. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
When you're teaching these concepts in practice, do you start with 5-on-0 or 5-on-5? This is advantage and disadvantage.
5-on-5. I'm sorry, 5-on-0 always. I just have always felt like before guys can play against somebody, they got to know what they're doing instinctively. And I don't ever like to start 5-on-5 and say, hey, run this, because if they're having to think where to go, they're probably going to make a mistake. That's just my personal experience. So almost never would we start any new action at all, ever 5-on-5.
And then in transition, when your point guard advances the ball forward, do you ever have him cut through to the opposite corner?
I used to, this depends on really what you want to do with your break. With a really good point guard, we happen to have a really good point guard right now. I don't want to do that. I don't want to send him through. I don't want to have him have less incentive to pitch the ball ahead. And I want to get the ball back in his hands because he's such a good trigger guy. So I like to follow. And I also like the spacing of it. I'll show you this. I'd much rather, because in theory, let's say two's running, you know, you got a big running and you got another, let's say the three's running and a trailer or whatever, and you kick ahead. I just like perfect spacing is if he can try to drive the ball front of the rim, drift, fan, and also to give this guy an out to say, okay, he's going to come behind you if you need him. And it might be that he doesn't even drive it. He just pitches ahead and he gets it and gets it back. But for me, I like following it and keeping the floor open. There's like 3 or 4 good reasons for it. So in short, I like not cutting him through.
How much shooting do you do in practice? How many minutes on practice plan?
That has to do with how advanced our team is. If I had my way, we'd have 2-a-days we'd be like European teams, and we'd have 2-a-days. And in the morning, we would shoot for an hour, and then we'd come back to practice. But of course, sometimes college gets in the way, and study hall and weights and class and all that. But I want to do is we are very, very big on skill work. We've even had discussions, should we be doing half our practice of skill work? And we've had a team a few years ago, a great, great, great team, experienced, talented, smart, and we kept pushing the envelope on individual work as opposed to teamwork because we could, and they were a great team. And then if you have a young team, let's say last year we had a bunch of new guys, we're together, we didn't do as much because we don't feel like we can practice for hours and hours and hours and keep them, in the right mindset for the season. So we backed away, and probably this year we skill worked, 18 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, 15 to 20 minutes a day of skill work, probably pretty much throughout the season. So I think it has to do with how advanced is your team. But if you're young and you're still trying to figure out how to see the man and the ball and how to jump to the ball and how to run this set or whatever, then I think more time needs to go for that. That's just my opinion.
Sure. Going back to what you talked about earlier about how if going with the point, getting the ball, I'm assuming this is on a rebound. How do you teach the point to get open in a consistent location or manner so that the rebounder finds him without a lot of hesitation?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's really not a perfect answer. We do try to, get him to understand you need to run to the side of the rim that you got to be on your horse, and we want as much depth as we can. And this all sounds great in the clinic, but when you start playing, it's one of those things we let slide too much. And we're great at it early in practice, and we get that wide, deep outlet with the point guards back to the sideline, and it's like, man, this looks great, especially in 5-on-0. We look like $1 million. And then we start playing. I think, honestly, that's going to come down to how much you emphasize it. Otherwise, it's going to kind of find its own way. And I can tell you for sure, that's one of the things that slips with me quickly, and I have to remind myself, oh my God, we got to get a deeper, quicker outlet. But I guess I would say the fundamentals of it are, though, get high and wide as fast as you can to the ball side, get your butt to the sideline so you can see what's ahead of you once before you catch. You got peripheral vision, and try like crazy. But I don't think it's an exact science.
That's all the questions that have come in. I know Tom unfortunately had to step off for a call, but what I was curious about is you have a very popular video with Championship Productions on the 2-3. I was just wondering if you could just talk briefly why you like the 2-3 zone.
You mean 3-2? The 3-2.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. That was as much as anything out of respect to Coach Hartman. When I was in college, well, I hate to even say this, God, our players look at me like I'm from 1601, but we didn't have a 3-point line and no shot clock, of course, in the 80s, early 80s. And we ran a lot of 3-2 zone. He kind of made it famous nationally. Coach Hartman was, the Pan American coach, almost the Olympic coach during that time. And I think my junior year. And part of it really was that 3-2 zone defense was fantastic. And, you know, it won us a lot of games. We didn't do it all the time, but we did it a good amount. And so that's why I did that video. I will say this, in this day and age, you know, it's a little tougher. You got to have the right guys, because the corners, you know, where's the soft spot in a 3-2 zone? Well, the corners, you know, the corners are the softest spot, the hardest area to get to. Then you have to decide, you know, well, who's going to cover them? Are you going to bump down the wings? Sometimes, always on one side, not the other. In Coach Hartman's 3-2, the baseline 2 guys would always take the corner. So that's a lot of movement, and then people start screening you. But it can really be effective. And we haven't run it a lot over the years, but I did that because, as much as anything, it was so good to us. And it's, and one other thing is, I mean, don't we all do this? We're all so guilty, you know. We all practice against a 2-3 zone. I mean, that's what our actions are, our plays. And then you place, if you, God forbid, you play somebody playing a 3-2, you're like, oh my gosh, we got to put in our new offense. I mean, how many people practice it that much? So there's another reason for it.
But that's great, Devin. We appreciate your willingness to be with us today and spend some of your time. What is it? What is the plan for the rest of the week? I mean, what you said you're doing a little bit of the Zoom with recruiting and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd get more into trying to figure out a vaccine or a cure for this disease. I thought I'd go into the laboratory and get some beakers and I can't even remember all the words from chemistry class. I guess some Bunsen burners, you know, and Bunsen burners. That was pretty good. Some test tubes and get on that. No, you know, just it's a day to day. Isn't it kind of for all of us? It's a lot of day to day. And I will say this. I think it's always so important that, you know, good comes out of bad. They always try to, you know, turn negative things into positive and find them. And definitely there's a million negative things about what's going on, but I think most of us would agree. And I'm trying to, you know, get this across to our players that this is a time you can really improve yourself right now, all of us, because I've never in my entire adult life had this much time to think and you know, look in the mirror and sort of recalibrate what's important, what's not quite as important, all those kind of things. So to me, I think this is a time that every single one of us have a chance to come out on the other side better off as a person and our perspective and all those kind of things. And I'm certainly not there, but I'm trying, and that's what we're trying to get across to our guys, that you can improve a lot more than you think. It's like you can almost change your soul a little bit, and I hope that happens for a lot of us.
All right. Well, thanks again, Tim. We'll let you go and get back to your soul searching, and
All right.
we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.